Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most objective 49ers discussion. Only smart takes, never any clickbait. And today, Victory Tuesday, we'll be talking about the Niners' victory over the Panthers 20-9. Obviously, Brock Purdy's rough first half we're going to talk about, and why so many fans are ridiculously up in arms just wanting attention. We'll talk about the offense overall, the defense that had a very strong game, and takeaways coming out of this important game for playoff positioning, with the Niners now basically up 3 games on the Panthers. So let's just jump right in and get right into the whining. Wow, Brock Purdy sucks. Bench him. He's a waste of money. We want Mac Jones. He's terrible. What does he do? Am I doing it right? Based on what we were seeing on social media, am I doing it right? Get out the ambulance. Because all the fans that think they know football, or think they're more important than they actually are, or just completely, you know what? You guys were jerking Brock off last week, and now it's just a knee-jerk reaction to sit him because of a bad first half. I want to be a Grant Cohn disciple. I'm just going to keep whining and posting stuff. Even though I like the team, I root for their most important player to fail because I'm a human piece of shit. Do you ever notice on social media that the bigger names, the Grant Cohns, the Jesse Nailers, the Ryan, whatever the fuck his last name was, the real estate person who retired, all of the biggest Brock Purdy haters have brown eyes. And it's not because it's the most common eye color on the planet. It's because they're so full of shit. Remember, guys, Brock Purdy is the only quarterback on the planet that is not allowed to have a bad game. He's not, but if he has a good game and he plays well, it's Kyle, it's the system, it's the weapons, it's everything but Brock. When Brock plays bad, it's just Brock. Folks that are haters, and again, God bless you if it's helping out your engagement. I see the views and everything. I know you guys are doing better than me. You know, the upper tier people. There's a bunch of nobody schmucks that so badly want to be part of the Cone Clown clique. So badly. Anytime they're critical about the Niners or Grant Cohn, they're tagging Grant Cohn or Jesse Naylor. Look what I did, guys. Look what I did. I just said something bad about the 49ers. I just said something bad about Brock Purdy. Pat me on the head. Scratch me behind the ear. Oh, that's good. That's good. Am I part of the club now? Am I? Fucking losers. I am not apologizing for what Brock Purdy did. It was a bad first half, but everybody out there that's pissing and moaning about this is just trying to fuel their garbage narrative, whether they are butthurt that they got Trey Lance wrong, whether they always had, something against Brock, and now we're putting, look, guys, I was right. Look, he's not any good, guys, because he threw 3 interceptions. We got to bench him. Look, we got Mac Jones. Kyle really wanted Mac Jones in the first round. We got to put Mac Jones in, guys. You got to sit him. Shut the fuck up. Now, maybe I was sitting there not fazed by what Brock was doing last night because the cannabis seltzer that I had might have kicked in fully, but I'm also not a knee-jerk person. I know a lot about the team, whether you agree with my opinions or not. Do a lot of research, do a lot of reading, and can understand what's going on. 3 picks sucks. But I agree with Kyle that the first one was the right read behind Jennings. The second one should have went somewhere else. And the third one, you could say, really wasn't his fault the way that the corner fell off of coverage. But the haters, and again, I don't understand. If someone, and there are a lot of people that just signed up for Twitter this month or yesterday, just start bashing on Brock. Good for you. Good for you. You want to you want to get mired in misery, that's why Grant Cohn exists. Unfortunately, because his father didn't pull out or his mother didn't take it in the mouth or ass. That's why Jesse Naylor exists, other than to drop to his knees and suck off Josh Allen, one or two hands, depending on, whatever's going on. And that's why Jesse Naylor's finger smells like Grant Cohn's asshole. Justifying the garbage narrative. I am not an apologist, but let's start off talking about the picks. I kind of got into it. Wasn't a good game overall. We all know this. Now, for me, if pick number 4 happened, then he would have had to sit. If pick number 4 happened, then he would have had to sit. I don't know why 4 is the magic number for me and not 3, but that's what I had in my mind. And especially since they weren't the most egregious picks on the planet. It wasn't a Josh Allen, I'm going to pitch the ball as I'm falling down to someone getting picked against the Texans. Josh Allen has a 2-interception performance and they lose at Houston. Where's the outcry? Right? Everybody's allowed to have a bad game except for Brock Purdy. Do you know why? Because everybody else that has a bad game, chances are they're a first-round quarterback. And for whatever reason, they get more leash, as opposed to, it's amazing how fans, non-tent creators, bullshit artists, well, forget Grant Cohn and Jesse Naylor, but people out there that are Niner fans that hate Brock, how is Brock not the ultimate Rudy underdog story for everybody? How is everyone just not rallying behind him? And you heard fans started booing after the 3rd interception. I would have been booing too. That is an excessive amount of interceptions for a game. I get it. But then to come on after or during, and people that just tweet nonstop during the game, just put the phone down. Jesus Christ, you don't need to dry hump your phone while the game's on. How many screens do you need up? Just watch the fucking game. Maybe tweet during commercials. I'm not going to, if guys that are listening or watching, that's kind of what you do. That's great. Sometimes commercials, I'll scroll, especially when a game's going bad, to see how ridiculous the fan base is. I don't post anything during a game. They're taking a leak, getting something to eat, talking to my son about the game, watching the games, flipping channels. There's more to do than post on Twitter. Let's get back to Brock. So started off good, right? First drive, 6 of 7, touchdown to Jennings. Jennings breaking a couple tackles. The first interception that Brock threw was literally the play after Bryce Young's really bad interception in the end zone and bad play calling by Dave Canales. On an in route to Juwan Jennings, threw it behind him, and with not enough on it, J.C. Orr makes a nice play, undercuts it for an interception. Second interception was a 3rd down and 6 from the Carolina 28, so the Niners going in. Brock drops back, steps up, throws to Pearsall in the end zone, underthrows him. If he led him more to the back of the end zone, might have been a touchdown or an incompletion at the worst. He could have run for the first down. He could have dropped it off to Kittle right in front of him for the first down, but instead he did not. That's something Brock needs to work on. We're going to get into that, right? Of the 3 interceptions, that's the one where you go, well, you had 2 other options. You had 2 other options to pick up the 3rd down versus, even if it's not intercepted, what if it's just batted down? Now you're settling for a field goal. When you had, of the 3 options, Pearsall, running, or Kittle, Pearsall was the worst option. Brock needs to work on that. We're going to get into that a little bit more in a minute. And the 3rd interception, you saw J.C. Horn drop from one side of the screen where there was nobody. I guess they were playing some sort of zone, ran all the way across. Brock didn't see him through the interception. Pearsall was wide open. Wide open. If J.C. Horn doesn't make that play, that's, a 15, 20-yard gain to Pearsall. On the day, Brock still with 3 interceptions and not looking good. 23 of 32, 193, 1 touchdown to Jennings, 3 interceptions. 23 of 32 is 72%. 72% completions with 3 interceptions. Those things shouldn't go together. If you're having that bad of a game, so my question to you, to everyone is, would you rather have Brock around 50% or under with no interceptions and 1 touchdown, or 72% and a touchdown and 3 interceptions? I guess it's hard to say, like, when when the interceptions come. But if you're throwing for under, say, close to 50% or under, that means you're having a really shitty game, that you can't find anybody open. Maybe your receivers aren't getting open. Maybe the coverages have you completely confused. It can't possibly be from the hater standpoint that Brock was a little off on the first 2 interceptions. It can't possibly be that. It's that Brock is shit. Brock is garbage. Brock is, he just should have been benched. And if they got to pick 4, I would have been all for benching him. The weird thing, because I looked at stats in the first half, 32 passes on the game, which feels about right for a Shanahan offense, right? Or like high 20s. 23 pass attempts by Brock in the first half. 23. He was 14 of 23 in the first half, so a little over 50% with the 3 interceptions and the 1 touchdown. Seemed, I'm not blaming Kyle at all. Don't misunderstand, but 23 passes in a half seems excessive. Seemed to be a bit excessive when they were having success on the ground. When Brock did, bust, I think, a couple runs. He had, I think, 16 yards total. Might have had a couple more yards than that because he took 2 knees toward the end of the game. Here's what everyone's not going to tell you unless you do the research for yourself. Brock had 23 passes in the first half, went 14 for 23. Brock had 9 passes in the second half, 5 in the third quarter, 4 in the fourth quarter, was 9 for 9. Perfect in the second half. Do you want to call that bouncing back, having good mental and testicular fortitude? That's one way of looking at it. Another way you can look at it as well, J.C. Horn went out, and I can think the other starting cornerback went out, so it was easier for Brock to pass. That's another way to look at it. Did Kyle just dial up safe throws for him? Did Brock just take some safe stuff? That's another way of looking at it. Regardless of how you look at it, going perfect for a half, and he should have been around 9 to 12 or say like 9 to 15 throws, 14 throws each half. Again, 23 in the first half felt high. Again, not blaming Kyle for the picks, but it felt weird for it to be. And Carolina does nothing well on defense. They are complete middling everywhere. Total yards, passing, rushing points, third down conversions, absolutely middling. But perfect in the second half, guys. No one's going to talk about that. I mean, perfect in the second half, maybe with 2 touchdowns, people would be talking about it. But perfect in the second half, no touchdowns, no sacks in the game at all for Brock. But people are going to harp on the 3 picks, which is the easy thing for low IQ, low skilled, low class non-tent creators to grab onto because misery loves company, right? And so does happy, shiny people, popcorn, unicorns, rainbows, and the other side of the spectrum, which is David Lombardi. Although he did post, I saw midway through the game or sometime in the first half, something critical about the Niners. And I was like, wow, somebody's better frame that. David Lombardi not sucking Kyle and John off, and Jed York and Parag Marath not wearing his knee pads out for the organization was a little odd. Here's the thing about Brock, guys, and I think that we should all know. Purdy has a gunslinger mentality, but doesn't have a gunslinger arm. You would never call a quarterback a gunslinger if they did not have a strong arm. Drew Brees wasn't a gunslinger. Chad Pennington wasn't a gunslinger, right? Brock's arm is not on the higher end of the spectrum, but he has that mentality that he sees things and thinks he can make some throws that he can't. Now let's take that with some seasoning, with a pinch of salt, right? Because it's not like Brock is attempting 25-yard outs and the ball is bouncing a couple yards in front of the receiver. He admitted on the throws to Jennings, the throw to Jennings that he floated it, and the throw to Pearsall, it looked like it was in between a float and just not putting enough on it. The third one, If he had a stronger arm, it would have gotten there a half a second sooner, and Horn might not have made the pick. But again, he didn't even see Horn to adjust anything from an arm velocity standpoint, however much more velocity he could have put on it. And I saw an interesting stat online 27 years ago, for what it's worth. So we're talking gunslingers, right? Brett Favre. In 1998, Brett Favre had 4 games with 3 interceptions. 4 with 3. And 4 games with 2 interceptions. And he's regarded as one of the, top, say, 15 quarterbacks of all time. And he had that gunslinger, country boy, loves the game mentality. You take the good with the bad. And that's before he was sending dick pics to Jen Sturger and conning people out of retirement money or whatever shit he's got involved in. Brock has that in him, but he doesn't have the arm to back it up. And it might actually be good that he doesn't have the arm to back it up, because he'll be probably trying some of these throws even more. I mean, there was the throw last week when he scrambled left to Jennings where he tried to float one in and was almost intercepted. Brock needs to take what the defense gives him more, check down more. And the first drive was a good number of checkdowns to McCaffrey, and run more. 4-ish, 5 runs a game. Even if he picks up, 4 or 5 yards, getting between 20 and 30 yards on the ground. Well, and I think teams respect that aspect of his game. He's not Lamar, Josh Allen, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham. We get it. Not Steve Young. Although his rushing numbers last year, I remember saying this in a podcast however many months ago, Brock's last year or his 2023, one of those numbers, rushing production. I think it was like in the mid 300s, 365 yards, whatever. That was an average year for Steve Young when he played 16 games. Because he, toward the end of his career, he missed a whole bunch of games. But for the last 7-8 years of Young's career, that 365 rushing yards, what Brock did in 2023, or average between 2023 and 2024, was an average year for Steve Young, who was, we all think back of as a wild scrambler. Gunslinger, let's pull that back a little bit. The scrambling, let's amp that up a little bit. And let's take what the defense gives more. Now, Shanahan, I'm sure, talked to Brock. Mick Lombardi, the quarterback coach, talked to Brock during the game. There was no apparent halftime speeches or any players coming up to him like, hey, stop throwing picks. We know, don't throw picks. Christian McCaffrey fumbled. Thankfully, he was recovered by the 49ers. Seen someone went up to McCaffrey and went, hey, dude, stop fumbling. Sometimes shit happens, right? But I think Brock does need to know his limitations in terms of arm strength, things that he can get away with and not. And they have to, I think San Francisco and Shanahan should be cognizant moving forward of, our team's going to bait San Francisco into those moderate ins, right? Are they going to have a lurking safety? Are they going to have corners try to undercut the pass? If you're playing man, is there going to be eyes on Brock at the linebacker level in terms of, getting a little bit deeper on those passes? It's a staple of the Shanahan offense, but I think it's something for them to be aware of moving forward. And when Brock sprays it around, peppers it around, sidelines, middle of the field, check downs, take your occasional deep shot, I think that's when the Niner offense or any offense is more dynamic and unpredictable, when you are making the defense defend every blade of grass. And remember now, he doesn't, the last 2 years, or at least this year, there's no Debo. There's no tunnel screens. Brock is not getting cheap yards. Sometimes McCaffrey will get one, but it's not like it's, multiple every game. The cheap wide receiver screens that other quarterbacks get, and Brock, you want to say, got in the past, it's not getting them this year. Neither was Mac. So it is obviously more downfield passing. We're not saying pushing the ball down the field. And we all saw the stat when he's throwing 10 yards or more downfield, he's 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. Yes, there's stuff to clean up. Yes, we get it. Brock's not going anywhere. He's not getting benched. He's still worth the money. He's a better quarterback than Mac Jones. He's a better quarterback than Trey Lance. Cone clown click. And I still consider him a top 10 to 12, 8 to 12 quarterback in the league. He's only played 4 games so far this year, 3-1. But he needs to protect the football. This Niners team is not good enough, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they can lose the turnover battle 3-2, which they did, and beat teams that are better than Carolina. Now, the offense overall, let's talk about 7 of 13 on third down, over 50% conversions, 2 of 2 on fourth down. One came toward the end of the game on a QB sneak. Ran it 38 times for 147 yards and 1 touchdown. McCaffrey himself, 24 for 89 and a touch. Brian Robinson, 7 for 40. He's averaging almost 6 yards a carry. McCaffrey, about 3.5. The Niners had only 16 runs in the second half. 16 of their 38 runs in the second half occurred in the second half. That includes 2 kneels. So that means 14 runs. That also means 22 runs in the first half, including Brock Purdy's scrambles. So in no way did Kyle take the game out of Brock's hands and just kept handing it off once they got a 10-point lead or whatever it wound up being. Brock still threw it. He threw it. Everything offensively was less throws in the first half. 23, which is still shocking to me, versus 9. And 22 rushes versus 14, not including the kneel downs. almost 15 and a half minute time of possession advantage, right? Niners sustained drives, third downs, they were good, kept Carolina off the field, 3 and outs, 4 and outs, 5 and outs. They were able to just dictate the game. And yeah, what we all felt better. Listen, Brock's 3 picks, one was in Carolina territory, right? At the 28 is where they started that, and he threw it into the end zone for the pick. At best, they finished with a touchdown. At worst, a field goal, or in the middle of a field goal. At worst, they get nothing, miss a field goal, turnover like we saw. So let's say they get a field goal out of that drive. That's an incomplete pass. Purdy throws an incompletion. 23-9. I'm sure people out there feel a lot better about Brock. He only threw 2 interceptions than 3. Say they get 2 field goals, 26-9, or a field goal and a touch. Like, I don't know what the line is where people wouldn't have this wild outrage over Brock. I think even if it was 2 interceptions, there'd still be wild outrage. The third put people into some sort of a foaming mouth, mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging frenzy, which you can understand somewhat in the heat of the moment because it's a game that they needed to win. NFC game that they're going up against a team for a wild card. I get it. But it's still carrying on today way too much. Like, they won the game, guys. This isn't Josh Allen, who went to Miami a couple weeks ago and lost, went to Houston, threw an egregious interception and lost. Now, Houston's a good team, don't get me wrong, but Brock won the last 2, right? 3 touchdowns, no interceptions last game. Almost flipped it around. One touchdown, 3 interceptions this game. Got to be more even keel, folks. Got to be more even keel. Now, listen, defense held Carolina to 230 total yards, well below their season average of 314, which is not quite even middling. Clamped down, 161 passing yards. Carolina averages 187. 69 rushing yards. Carolina averages 127, nearly half for a rushing team with Rico Dowdle running wild with his hair on fire and Shuba Hubbard. And it's a team that wants to establish the ground game and a game that never got away from Carolina. It was an 11-point game. They were never down by more than, 7, 10 when the game was still within reach. And they still only ran the ball 13 times. I don't know what the game plan was from Canales there. And obviously the 2 interceptions by Jair Brown were big. One in the end zone where first and goal at the 1. And I tell my son, like, I know Bryce Young's like a little quarterback. I don't know if that helps or hurts in QB sneaks. QB sneak it 4 times from the fucking 1. Take any sort of doubt or negative plays, unless there's a hold. And of course there could be a fumble, off the table and just QB sneak it 4 and bring Andy Dalton in if you want. If you don't want to get Bryce Young hurt, bring Andy Dalton in, sneak it 4 times from the 1, or hand it off to Rico Dowdle 4 times. You're telling me with the Niners D line, he's not going to get in? But but Bryce Young rolls right. Could have ran it in. Instead of throwing it away, low percentage throw, Jair Brown drops off of his, wherever he was, man zone, winds up intercepting it. And the second throw, Jair Brown again, like kind of not undercut, but came up, intercepted. People are complaining, oh, Renardo Green had a hold on the receiver. Shit happens all the time. How many calls do the Niners not get? So 2 interceptions, and Jair Brown, slow down, bro. We'll take the hyperbole out of you also. We got enough on defense to make a Super Bowl. No, you don't. And that's okay. You played a good, very good game against a very mediocre offense. Where was this against the Rams? You didn't say that shit against the Rams. You didn't say that shit against the Cardinals when they, essentially carved you up in the fourth quarter when you're up 35-10, but Jacoby Brissett in the first 3 quarters was still moving the ball. It's not like he threw for 400 plus yards in a quarter. But the defense, 1 for 7 on third downs was Carolina. Cleveland Farrell had their only sack, 14 total pressures, Huff with 5, and Farrell with 3. I hope Robert Beal bounces back from the concussion and whatnot and is cleared to play this week. But Farrell, you should not sit Robert Beal. I'm sorry, you shouldn't sit Cleveland Farrell for Robert Beal. Ever. And they should probably have Robert Beal and Cleveland Farrell active at the same time and go 5 DNs, 4 D tackles, because I don't think Keon White is a true DN. If you can play inside, outside, and he's that big of a dude, I would want, you could have, then you would go 3 D tackles and you can still go 4. So you can go, Bryce Huff, Sam O, Cleveland Farrell, and Robert Beal. Your 4 D tackles being Jordan Elliott, Kalia Davis, Alfred Collins, and CJ West. And then you have your tweener, which is Keon White. That's what your 9 men on the D-line should look like. They shouldn't be sitting Cleveland Farrell anymore this year. As far as tackles, Malik Mustafa led the team in tackles with 6. Curtis Robinson in for Tatum Bethune, only 3 tackles. Now, they only handed it off 13 times, so that has a lot to do with it. And, Carolina wasn't throwing the ball really in the middle of the field. They were dropping passes, and it was an offense that couldn't sustain drives. So I can understand Curtis Robinson's tackle count as a middle linebacker being less than what Bethune was putting up, but to have it be like 10 less, nobody on the Niners seemed like, Malik Mustafa led him with 6 tackles. No one had more than 6. It's just one of those kind of weird games defensively, but all we wanted to see was the Niners putting the clamps on a mediocre or slightly mediocre, worse than mediocre team offensively, and they did that. Yeah, it would have been great if they beat him 30-9 and Brock had 1 or 2 less picks. Aesthetically, it would have looked better. A win is a win. You take it. The run defense, extremely impressive. The pass defense, pretty impressive, especially with the 2 picks. Now, takeaways, guys. What did they prove? That the Niners can win a game when Brock plays poorly. They could not do this in 2023 on Christmas night when he threw 4 interceptions against Baltimore. And Brock has had other multi-pick games. They lost the Jaguar game where he threw 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and had that strip sack fumble at the end, down 26-21 around midfield as they were attempting to drive to win the game. And they did this against a winning team. They were 6-5, the Panthers coming in. Now they're the definition of mediocre because they're 6-6, but they were still a team that has won weird games like at Green Bay and lost weird games like at home against New Orleans and then shutting out Atlanta 30-0 earlier in the season. But the Panthers are who I think we all thought they were, just a very average team that the only thing that they do well was run the football, and the Niners completely took that away. The defense, as a takeaway, had their best game of the year. Oh, it was against the Panthers. So what? Would you prefer them struggle against the Panthers? Would you prefer the Panthers put up 20 and the Niners having to win with a field goal at the end of the game, 23-20? Held them to 9 points. They even held a 2-point conversion, which made no sense to go for. If you miss the extra point, then you either retry or you want to, go for the 2-point conversion from the 1. 1 yard makes that big a difference going from the 2 to the 1. I still find that ridiculous. Kick the extra point, get to 17-10, and then after, if you score again and you want to go up or go for the win, then go for 2. I hate going for 2 early because if you don't get it, then you have to go for it later. I hate chasing points, even if it's only 1 or 2 points, or sometimes 3 points, when coaches get, I don't say too smart for themselves, too stupid for me, and not kicking a field goal when it's there. If the Lions had kicked a field goal or field goals multiple in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, they would have gone to the Super Bowl, assuming they made the field goals. They would have won the game. But Big Balls Dan Campbell decided not to. That's why they lost, and they didn't even win a playoff game last year, losing at home against the Commanders. So, listen, a building block game against Carolina. Everybody worried. Bryce Young was 448 and 3 touchdowns against the Falcons. He's going to carve up the Niners secondary. Not so much. It's called regression to the mean. He only averages 192, 94 yards a game passing. He had 20% less than that against San Francisco. Niners did their job. And as we all know, they'll have to play a better game against better teams. Brock has to play a clean or much cleaner game against better teams. Has to be like the second half. 9 for 9. Perfect. With less passes and less runs, less offense in general. But that's a way to bounce back that no one is talking about. 9 for 9 in the second half. Did not exacerbate what was going on in the first half. And the defense, you know what? Jair Brown with the 2 interceptions. Good on you for bailing out the offense. That hasn't happened in a while. That hasn't happened since, the Saints game, week 2? And in week 1, getting the strip sack of Spencer Rattler inside New Orleans territory to seal the game, and the strip sack of Sam Darnold inside the 9 or 20 to seal that game week 1 at Seattle. Otherwise, it's been more often than not, significantly more often than not, and George Kittle acknowledged it, and I think the whole team acknowledges it, the offense has to put up close to 30 most days until the defense can get their footing. This was a game, a step in the right direction. This is not a cure-all. This is not anything where anyone should say, the Niners defense is fixed. We know it's not. There's no Bosa. There's no Warner. There's no Michael. There's no Utour. They're missing 3 of their top 4 pass rushers. Gone for the season. Well, Utour will come back, but we'll see. But essentially gone for the season for however much that Utour played. Step in the right direction. They have Cleveland next. We'll dive into that on Thursday or Friday. If we do not speak, if I don't post on Thursday, I want to wish you and your family a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Like always, guys, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your viewing or listening routine. We will be speaking before Saturday. I don't want to do another late podcast. So maybe Thanksgiving night, if I'm not in a food coma, or sometime early Friday before, say, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We will have our next podcast discussing anything going on in Ninerland, any more whiny, if people are still being a whiny bitch about Brock. But previewing, I think, a very tricky game at Cleveland. And right now, the weather is not supposed to be good. There's supposed to be precipitation, either rain or snow. And as much as that's going to be an issue for Brock, you have Shedeur Sanders on the other side. Yeah, he played in Colorado. Wasn't all that much of a winner in Colorado, even though he got his jersey somehow retired. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Whatever you are doing between now and when we speak again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Stay happy, safe, and healthy. We will talk soon. Take care.